For sure.
All right, what's up? Hey
What
guys,
up?
this is Bobby and Darius. We wanted to just make a video tonight because we both just joined Clubhouse this last week, and we've had some really fun and interesting conversations. And I jumped into a room probably I think it was like 2 or 3 days ago, and
Yeah.
it had a really funny title, and it said "White people are not safe here."
Yeah, this
And,
is this is not a safe space for white people.
yeah, and it was really I thought that was kind of funny, and I wanted to hop in and just like see if I was gonna get roasted or what. And we went in there and they were basically just asking like the moment I jumped in, they were just like, Bobby, have you ever or do you use the N word? And I was just like, no. I was like, it doesn't make me even feel good like thinking about that, you know? And they were like, okay, good. Like, you're a good man. And then we went around the room. Everyone was kind of asking questions. There were like 4 or 5 white people in there, and people were just sharing their experiences. And after 20 minutes of us just rambling, everybody just having a good time talking, Darius hopped in
Yeah.
as well. And then, yeah, it was just interesting, like how it unfolded. But Darius, I'll let you take it from there, and you can just kind of talk about what unfolded once you joined.
Yeah. So what was interesting is you didn't notice B, but like I had just woke up because we were up in Estes Park and had a late night. And so I woke up and I saw that you were in the room. I saw the title and I saw that you were in the room. And so I was like, I'm gonna hop in. And then I hopped in and I started hearing terms about like white privilege, different things like that. And then it was in the context of like white people using white privilege to dismantle systems or pre-existing systems and that was the context. And so I Bobby gave me the platform and introduced me, and then they wanted to know my story, and I didn't really go into that, but I did share my thoughts even though I had no context. I just said, hey, the one thing I heard about white privilege, my only thought would be that it's not a white person's responsibility to use their white privilege to make a black person's life easier. Uh, and in my opinion, that didn't go over too well. Uh, but so it was very interesting the response. B, as you remember, uh, guys, immediately I was accused of. There was this term that I never heard before that I was in a sunken state, which meant that I was whitewashed, and people wanted to know. There were accusations that like I'm not connected and I don't understand this. And people were trying to school me on different things. And so ultimately it culminated with I stepped out the room because people were talking over each other. But it was very interesting how my thought triggered the room to essentially begin to question whether or not, basically questioning my blackness, which was a very interesting thing to experience. I don't know how you perceived it, be from your perspective.
Yeah, it was the room was very much steered like what can like white people do to dismantle like some of the things that have happened. And they were like, have you ever used your white privilege before, was one of the things they asked me. And I've never had like a direct experience where I've had to like use white privilege. Like I think of if there's like white privilege in my life, because I haven't been in a community like they talked about the differences between primarily black communities and the white privilege you would have within that, or just me growing up in the South and primarily white communities where there's not necessarily like, I'm assuming, like living, breathing black privilege. Those were kind of the two lenses the group was viewing it within.
Yeah.
Um, and I was just like, there were certain circumstances whenever I was younger, and like me and some friends were pulled over in a car, and like, you know, 50+% of the people in the car were black, and then I could tell cops were treating us different, and then I would try to like speak up just to just be like, we're good here, we're legit, whatever. And it went well, but that was the extent of it. I've never really been through anything like specific.
Yeah.
And yeah, we continued going down that uh, rabbit hole in the chat. And then upon you coming in, you shared stuff that I thought was really relevant to like the platform, I guess, you're building, and just where your faith is, and like where your kind of like mission and story is, from what you've shared me of just helping men, helping married men, believers, and all walks of life just thrive and take ownership and like truly, make a change in their own life to
Yeah.
get a step forward. And that was why I wanted to just kind of like throw you on the spot in the group, and another
Yeah.
reason why I wanted us to hop in this video here today together, talk about that more.
Yeah, man. And it was very interesting, the response, because so I when I spoke, I knew that it was kind of going against the grain. I knew that, even though I didn't have much context of the conversation. In hindsight, I've kind of weighed like, would I do that again? Would I say anything, or would I just pass the buck and just say, "Hey, I'm here to listen"? But I'm actually happy that I did say that it's not a white person's responsibility to use their quote unquote white privilege to make a black person's life easier. And I'm happy I said that, because a lot of times we're throwing this terminology around and we just let it settle as if it's like established, you know? And so for me, I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, what does that even mean? And we all have the opportunity. Like, it is 2020, and yes, there's issues, and there's issues, within cultural dynamics and prison and all these different things. But at the same time, it's like, you you can't you I don't think you can place that kind of responsibility on someone who looks different than you, classifying all their experiences and then saying like all of their experiences are default. They're default better because that person has white privilege, and therefore they should be using that to dismantle systems. I just thought there was a lot of terminology in there that's like, no one's defining this terminology. It's just being like taken and run with. And we're all like shaking our heads like, yeah, we all know what we're talking about, but there's never any clarification. Like, what are you talking about by white privilege? Like, when you're talking about systems and oppression and these different types of terms that people are using, I just think it's interesting that we never clarify and actually specifically state like, here's what I mean by that. And so when I said that, you know, I just thought it was very interesting how people responded, because I don't think you can actually argue with what I said, because all I said was, it's not someone else's responsibility to make your life easier. Like, how can it be like, what if they don't know you? What if they don't know you? Like, how can it be their responsibility and somehow they're failing you because they're not making your life easier? And so I found it interesting that people wanted to argue with that. And then people went I don't know if you caught it, but people were going as far to as to question whether or not I was I was quote unquote black, and they wanted to question what I was doing for the black community, and I just thought that was a very interesting response. And I appreciate the platform of the app, but it's very interesting how it's very interesting, that sort of group think mentality, where it's like, if you think differently than me, you're done. And if you first of all, if you look the same way as me, you should be thinking the same way as me. That was one of the implicit things there that kind of disturbed me all week, where I was kind of pissed, to be honest, of just like, that shouldn't, I don't, in my opinion, I just didn't think that should have been the reaction to someone, even if you disagree. Like, even if you disagree with me, that's fine, but like, communicate that disagreement. Don't immediately go to trying to knock the person down and finding all these reasons and assumptions as to why they would possibly say that. So that was very interesting to me, man.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, yeah, in the clubhouse groups, often there's not a lot of question asking, like a lot of people just responding, which is interesting. And I've actually met 4 or 5 other like black men that I've become like not like friend close with, but whenever one of us see one another join a room, we invite one another, and we've started talking more. And we actually got a little bit into the weeds about race together. And like I was even asking him, I was like, guys, I have a question, because my friend Black Dave, that's his online name, Black Dave, and he invited me to Clubhouse. I joined, and then I invited you. So
Yeah.
like my invite and who I invited were black, and I was asking him, I was like, 90% of the rooms I go into, they're 80% black plus. I was like, is this because it's a new app, the algorithm is just making an assumption that I'm black, or is it primarily an app used by Black people. And what those 3 to 4 Black guys that I've met, they've all said the same thing. They said it is a primarily like Black app, and it's kind of interesting the experience I've had because it's different than what I've grown up hearing around. Like, because I've mentioned to those 4 guys about how I lived in Atlanta, how I lived in Charleston, and those were like 2 areas where after growing up in the South, when I moved there, like especially when I moved to Atlanta, like I was riding home on the school bus after like my first like week of school, and they were like, "Nah, son, you're not talking country anymore." And and they were just like talking to me about slang, how to speak and stuff, and I lost a little bit of my Southern accent, I would say, like from that, and that was like in my mind, as like a little white kid in school, that was like a cool moment, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and Black Dave shared something really kind of interesting that he just said. He was like, oftentimes like Black people do not start things, but they definitely make it cool. And whenever he shared that, I was like, that's definitely true. Like knowing like what I know about me growing up, like loving basketball, loving like rap. And those were like my 2 favorite things growing up, was like basketball and rap music. And I've really enjoyed like the app, for that reason. Is like I've always enjoyed like the things of just Black culture, like just who I've been surrounded with, the sports I've played, and the people I choose to hang with. But then also beyond that, it was just I got to experience like some of that through a different lens, and it was just eye opening, considering what I've lived. Like to your point, like I've been through something else, so therefore I shouldn't be necessarily responsible. But it was cool to like be a part of these rooms and like have people who were just like, yes, come talk about it, share your experience, and let's talk about it together. And it's been a cool experience thus far, I guess, to say the least.
For sure, bro. It's interesting because um to be honest, I was reeling a little bit over the whole interaction because one, I don't want to I never want to hop into any space and be disruptive or stir the pot or piss somebody off for no reason at all. And so it was an interesting point of reflecting of like, okay, uh, it was just very interesting reflecting on it and being like, I don't think I was wrong in what I was saying as much as I was just more so. Uh, I think you got to be mindful and practice wisdom. Like I said, I've gone back and forth of like, would I do that again? Because part of the way the app functions, because like you said, we pointed out some of the things of like it is seems to be like a predominantly black uh, have a predominantly black user base. But one of the things I've noticed is the communication style is very much so that way. And so I think there's a certain level of you have to navigate the platform with a certain level of like wisdom and tact, and not necessarily try to be a social butterfly. But I think jumping in those communities that are going to be of value to you, yet not siloing yourself off to where maybe you aren't hearing a discussion that is maybe the opposite of what you think. Uh, I think the thing though for Black people is we really don't do a good job of communicating with other Black people who think differently. And it's not unique. I can't say it's unique to Black people because there's tons of evidence in our culture right now that it's not. But historically, I would argue we just don't do a good job of that. And I think that was a part of the thing for me, which was like, man, I really hope this turns into that kind of thing to where someone who does express a different opinion isn't automatically just having their legs cut out from under them because they say something that you don't agree with. And now you're questioning, you're questioning whether or not this person, you're literally questioning their authenticity and questioning their very being, like to question, to question someone's, to make assumptions and say, like the one guy said to me, oh, you're whitewashed, you're in the sunken place. And I was asking him to clarify that. I just think like that doesn't do anybody any good. It doesn't do you any good. It doesn't do our community any good. It doesn't do the person you're speaking to. Um, and and it, I've like I said, man, I'm kind of rambling about it, but I've reflected a lot on it. Where I'm just like, look, my perspective is different, but don't think that I don't think about being black every day in this country. Like, don't think about that. Like, how can you even know that? How can you even know what someone's life has been like? Like, these people questioning me on the app, they don't know what my life has been like. They don't know what it was like for me growing up. And guys, they wanted to know my story, and I didn't really tell them my story. I told them where I lived, and they tried to press on that, but it's like some of those things are just, you're asking the question to see if you get an answer that suffices, as opposed to genuinely knowing someone. And I think that's just, as people, as black people, but as blacks, whites, we listen ready to respond, or ready to um, qualify someone or disqualify someone. We don't do a good job of actively listening and trying to really hear where someone is coming from. And I think that's the point of a lot of friction right now. Is um, there wasn't a single person that I don't think there was a single person on that app when I said that was like, I disagree with you, but I see where you're coming from, or I agree with you on that, but you're way off on that. It was immediately like, you're saying something different than what everyone is saying, and because of that, you must be out of your wits, and we need to school you now. Even the one lady, right, the one doctor lady wanted to.
And that was why I invited you to speak up, because you were
Yeah,
just listening, and I was like, let's invite my friend Darius to the stage, because we've talked at length about this, and I knew where you stood, and I was like, let's just allow someone to say something different.
yeah,
And as someone who likes to observe, I was just like, let's see how the group responds. And yeah, I just told him like, I just told them like my life experiences and stuff, and they were just like, "You're a cool white guy." They're like, "Well, you act this way because you have a good heart." And I just bluntly told them, I was like, "Well, I love Jesus, man. My parents didn't raise me to like think in these ways. So when y'all ask me these kind of questions that, you know, it seems like it might make like a introverted person nervous, I was
yeah,
like, I'll shoot you straight, like." But it was a cool experience, and yeah, I wanted to call you up because I know like where your mission and heart is, and to
yeah,
kind of conclude the last maybe like quarter of this video, can you just speak a little bit about like some of your goals over the next year or two as you
yeah.
do just share your voice online and what you want to achieve like with your life's mission?
Yeah, man. One of the goals, we're actually walking in it. One of the goals is, I want to be a part of having some of these real conversations where people have differing perspectives, whether it's on race issues, whether it's faith, whether it's family and what defines family. I definitely want to step into that space and have more of these conversations. Uh, I'm working on a couple things on the side right now, bro. Where I'm actually, I told you about it, where I'm starting that channel More Than Black, or that series More Than Black. I chatted with Isaiah, the guy you linked me up with, and I have two other people that are going to be coming on as well. And so I really want to step into making more content and just having conversations, because we're not doing that. We're just not doing that. And the way we're treating each other, even like someone talking to you and being like, "Oh, you're cool because you did that." It's like, well, what if you didn't do that? Why are you uncool? And so I really, my goal this year is to step out of my comfort zone and try to be a part of some of these social communities and start having discussions and get uncomfortable, because it was uncomfortable. I'm not going to front. And uh, and I'm okay with that. And I want to hear different perspectives. One of the people on the chat actually asked me a question. They said, "Well, what are you doing for the black community?" And I didn't get a chance to answer, but that's one of the things I want to do for the black community. Is we need to be having different discussions, and I would love to be a part of facilitating that, to where we're talking about the differing perspectives. We're talking about why why does every black person have to think that Trump is a racist and somehow Joe Biden's not, or you know this way on BLM or whatever. And so my goals, bro, honestly, is to just be a facilitator this year of some, hopefully some very impactful conversations. Continue what I'm doing as a father and a husband. I'm getting ready for another kid on the way, so that's one goal, is like transitioning my family and adding this new one. So supporting my wife is a goal the rest of this year, or coming into the next year, and doing more of this, man. Just doing more of this, continuing. I would love to be a light and encouragement to men who are walking in their faith and as husbands as well, because I don't think we celebrate that enough. Being a husband, being a wife, they're hard, but they're also worthy of being celebrated, you know. So,
I love it.
what about you, bro? I know you're busy. I mean, you're already making content, Bitcoin and everything else. You're stepping out there.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, I made some like funny like Bitcoin song videos and like won a couple of like cool little contests online that got some recognition, and it was just wild. From November 17th until now, I went from like 800 followers to 1,630, and it's been growing at like 1 or 2% a day, especially since I joined Clubhouse. And I've been trying to be like more mindful of what I post and like deliberate about being like more value adding versus like what they call like shit posting online, where you just kind of like joke and just like be goofy, which is super fun. Like the Bitcoin space does that like 24/7.
Yeah.
But yeah, just trying to like help people and like bring value. And it's been cool on Clubhouse in particular. Like I've been joining just different rooms and just trying to share what I've learned. And I've really noticed that like over the last 3 to 4 years, I've been like really educating myself on real estate, Bitcoin, like finance, 401ks, and obviously like 10 plus years of digital marketing experience, like 20 years of sales. And when I joined these rooms, I realized, like now that we're at the top of a market and like what's going on in these economic cycles, that there's a lot of people that are just like, I'm an expert, text me, email me, and they're selling something. And I love joining these rooms and just be like, I don't want a penny from you, but I've spent thousands of hours and I want to give you like every minute I drop something, I want it to be like a pure gem where you walk away and you can just go, spend an hour and wrap your mind around it versus spending 10 to 20 hours trying to find
Yeah.
that bit of info. And I just love doing that. And that's helped me go pretty far, like so far, just within like, 4 or 5 days on the app. And I'm just enjoying that. And it's cool. And like when I join rooms, like people are just saying, hey, I enjoy the way Bobby articulates stuff. And I try to kind of like Lord of the Flies, if you got the conch shell, you speak. And it's just like, I try to like get the conch shell, but get rid of it quick. And when I say something, it's valuable. And it's been a lot of fun. And I just want to keep, just sharing good stuff with people. And lastly, the one cool thing I'm kind of doing is I haven't told you about this yet, so we can chat about it here now a little bit. My buddy Martin, who makes music, I'm like paying him to make some instrumentals for me, and I'm gonna make just like a pure like singing album, and it's gonna be like good music that's just related to my faith, some of the stuff, maybe what's going on economically, and just I love writing music just about like love in general. So
Yeah.
like
Yeah, you do.
a blend of that. So that'll be fun. So it should
Yeah.
be a fun year. And I got a kid on the way as well. So we're
Come
pumped
on.
about that, man.
Yeah, you got to get ready for that. I think one of the things I would add to that list is just more specifically stating it, having the gong shell is, uh, I want to dive a bit more into Clubhouse myself personally, just because having a different perspective as I may have, uh, I want more interaction. I want more exposure. And one of the things I noticed is even before that interaction happened on Tuesday, or was it Tuesday or Wednesday? Whatever day, no, Thursday. Whatever day, yeah, Thursday. Even prior to that, one of the things I've been thinking about is when I was on the platform, and I'm not afraid to say this on camera, I find myself kind of already going into each room based on, so if it's a culturally related room or economics or something, I find myself already stepping into the room being like, well, I know I'm going to be the minority here, or I'm going to, if I get a chance to speak, I'm probably going to say something that offends someone, or how can I articulate it in such a way to where I get people to agree with me. And it's interesting being on the defensive entering these rooms, and so that's something that I want to change over the coming months. Is I don't want to enter a place like Clubhouse being on the defensive, because one, I think that affects your listening, right? Um, but then therefore how I choose to communicate is going to affect that. And so I want to be more solid in the sense of just coming in, actively listening, taking the defense down and being like, so what if someone disagrees, as opposed to being like already thinking out three or four different responses if I say this and someone says this, just going in eyes wide open. And hopefully I would like to be able to, in particular in the Black community, I get this sense I'll have to like fight my way in within Clubhouse. And so I'm processing that, and I don't want to necessarily fight my way in, but I do want to build community, and I want to build a group of people around me in that social sphere who are a part of the Black community. They don't have to think the same way as me, but I want to somehow build a relationship with them. So that's a goal for sure.
Awesome. Well, cool, man. Well, I'm glad we can make this video. I know we've only been on the app for like 4 days, so we obviously are experiencing like kind of the beginning, but it'll be fun to kind of moderate some of our own rooms, whether it be together or just, one-on-one separately, and to, engage more with people. So we'll have to definitely follow up and do another video like this again in the future.
Dude, I got an idea. What if we so we do have that meetup with the girl and the other people tomorrow. Um is it tomorrow or Tuesday?
It's tomorrow. We were supposed to meet on Thursday for a quick tag up, and I emailed and showed up, and she never showed. So we'll see if it goes down Monday, but I hope so.
Yeah. So we'll do that. But one of the things I think we should do is we should create like a ebony and ivory room or something, and just kind of talk about this, and maybe just do it weekly, and maybe couple it with like a recap joint every week on Zoom or something.
That would be cool.
Because I think a lot of people, that would be a good way to build that bridge and to just be open and be like, look, I think differently, but we want to build bridges, And so I think that could be a good way of going about it.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, because you could schedule the clubhouses, and then every time we have one, we could make a follow-up video. Anyone who doesn't make it just sees like a 10-minute recap of
Yeah.
what was discussed, everything that goes down. But it would be cool to just hear people from just different walks, like
Yeah.
their life. But yeah, that's awesome.
Well, maybe let's try to do that. Maybe by Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm out this week, but I'm working as well. But I think we should do that because it would be neat to be able to even voice this, what some of the things we were talking about, and have other people speak to it. Or maybe we're creating a space where someone, because we can moderate, right? Where someone's like, yeah, I feel like I have this pressure on me because I'm white, or I feel like I agree with you, Darius, but I also disagree with you, and here's why. Maybe we can just be creating that kind of that flow.
All right. Sounds like we'll have to do that then.
Yeah.
Either yeah, before the 24th, before Christmas Eve, we'll find a time and we'll have to schedule it.
Yeah, come on. Let's do it, man.
Right on.
I think people will hop in there too, especially if we name it like Ebony and Ivory. Because there's an implicit there, and then there's like, well, what is that, right? So I think it'll work.
Awesome. Well, good deal, man. Well, appreciate you, Darius. Where can people find you online?
Dude, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I'm at Darius I Bell, Darius, the letter I, Bell. That's where you can find me.
Awesome. All right, man. We'll be doing it again in the next week or two. Talk soon.
Later, bro. All right, love you, man.
All right.